welcome back to my channel, JL Wood Artistries. My name is Jordan Largesse, and ironically, that's what this project is. It's a gift, a housewarming gift for my friend Rose. Rose and I are co-workers, and just to tell you a little bit about her, she is a nice, caring, generous, lovely person to everyone at work, except for me. Rose and I have a difficult working relationship. To give you an example, just the other day, I wish her a good morning when she comes in the building, and she says, "Thank you." And I respond, "You're welcome. I noticed you're running 10 minutes late. You might want to get clocked in and get straight to work." It turns into an attack on me. Mind your own business, and you are not my boss. How many times do I have to tell you? It's like the message was not received. Obviously, I'm trying to help. The other day, I complimented her hair. And she responds, "Thanks, I appreciate you noticing, I just got it done." And I said, "Yeah, I did notice. It looks way better than it normally does." I'm trying to help. It looks better than it normally does. Why does that have to become an argument, And she just attacks me. Mind your own business. How can you compliment me and put me down at the same time? And it's like, excuse me, I'm trying to help. So anyway, there's only so much I can take. And hopefully this nice gesture will encourage Rose to be a little bit nicer to me. So obviously I'm joking. Rose, I'm very excited for your new home. I know how stressful buying a home can be, and I'm glad that it worked out for you. And this is a housewarming gift for you. It fits your personality perfectly. It's very bossy. Your friends may not have intended on staying a while, and you're demanding that they do. It's perfect. So I hope you like it, and I'm very excited to give it to you. This sign includes hand-drawn lettering and a frame made out of reclaimed fence pickets. I used a sheet of 1/2-inch thick plywood for the panel and painted it white to dress it up. I used white chalk paint that I diluted with a little water to thin out the paint. This allows the wood grain of the plywood to show through, giving the panel a weathered look. I used a sanding block with 220 grit sandpaper to sand back the paint after it was dry. And then I added a second coat of the same water and paint mixture. Once it was completely dry, I very lightly sanded the panel smooth. If you've seen my other sign videos, you'll know I like to apply a protective finish before beginning my lettering process. I prefer to use MinWax Helmsman clear satin spar urethane. The oils in the spar urethane add a protective coating to the wood, and this helps to prevent the ink from running later when you're drawing on your letters. I sprayed on the first coat and allowed it to dry overnight before spraying on a second coat. For the words in this project, I found 2 different fonts and font sizes that I thought looked good together. I found that using different fonts and font sizes in my projects really add a ton of character. I just used Microsoft Word during the design process, and once I was happy with the overall layout, I printed out the words in gray ink instead of black. The gray ink allows me to easily see the pencil lines of what's been traced and what still needs to be done. Once printed, I carefully aligned the words onto the panel, checking for even vertical and horizontal spacing. I used masking tape to keep the words in place, making sure to tape down just one side of the word to the panel so that I could lift up the opposing side and slide in a piece of graphite transfer paper. If you decide to use this method, you don't need a big piece of graphite paper for each project. A small piece can be traced over multiple times before it's no longer transferring. You'll know it's time to replace the paper with a new piece when the image isn't transferring as dark as you need it to be any longer. With Emery's help, the printed words were removed, and I began drawing over the letters in black ink. I used an ultra-fine point Sharpie for this step. I took my time and carefully traced over the outside edges of the lettering, and once the outside edges were traced, I went back and colored in the inside of the letters. You'll notice my hand is resting on top of a napkin. This is a trick that I use to prevent my hand from smearing the graphite underneath it. If any of the graphite happens to smear, I'll use a combination of an eraser as well as a Q-tip dipped in water to lightly wipe away the graphite. I sprayed on 2 more coats of the MinWax clear satin spar urethane, allowing dry time in between the coats. And then it was time for a break. Oh, another good catch. Then I got to work on the frame. I used reclaimed fence pickets, being careful to avoid selecting pickets that contain knots in places where I knew I would be making my rip and miter cuts. Cutting through the knots can be frustrating, as sometimes the knot comes completely out of the wood, leaving a hole behind where you want material to be. I love the character that the knots bring to my projects, so I'm just careful to make sure that they're not in areas where I'll be making my cuts. I ripped the pickets down to 1 3/4 inches wide on the table saw. Then I glued and brad nailed 2 pickets together to add extra thickness. After allowing a couple hours for the glue to set up, I ripped the 4 frame boards down on the table saw to 1 1/8 inch thick. Next, I cut a 1/4 inch deep groove down the middle of the frame boards. The panel will fit into this groove later when I assemble the frame. I used a cutoff from the plywood panel to make sure the groove was cut to the correct size. After this, I ripped down 4 more pickets to 1 1/4 inches wide. They will be attached perpendicular to the frame boards as outer trim or a cap to the frame. This trim is also 1/8 inch taller than the thickness of the frame boards, which adds a raised, layered look to the frame. I attached the trim boards to the outside edges of the frame boards with wood glue and brad nails. Once the glue was dry, I used the miter saw to cut the ends of the frames at 45 degrees. I then fit them one at a time onto the sign panel and used a pencil to mark where I needed to cut the end of the frame. I assembled the frame around the sign panel using wood glue on the mitered edges and then brad nailing them together using 2 nails on either side of the corners. Here are the final shots of the completed project. I hope you like it. Now comes the time in the video where I ask for your help. Please help me. I want this channel to blow up. I want it to be bigger than it is, and you can do so by supporting me and subscribing to the channel, liking the video, sharing it with your friends. Rose, share this video with your friends, please. Help this channel to explode. Like this.
Oh my gosh!
It's about hitting the crotch.
That was insane.
Until I catch you on the next one, please take care and stay safe. Thank you. Goodbye.
You're scaring the daylights out of Buddy.